Welcome to the lesson on working with variables in Swift Calcs. In Swift Calcs, variables hold values or expressions that you can use in calculations later in your worksheet. To define a variable in Swift Calcs, while in math mode, type the name of the variable and then press the equal key to add the assignment operator, which is identified by 3 horizontal bars. Enter a value and then press enter to assign this value to your variable. Variable names in Swift Calcs must start with a letter, but can then contain more letters, numbers, and subscripts. Note that Swift Calcs is case sensitive, so a small x is different than an uppercase X. When editing an expression, Swift Calcs will highlight variables in a burnt orange color, helping to differentiate these items visually. Note that when you define a variable in Swift Calcs automatically hides the answer bubble that normally appears after an expression. If you wish to show this bubble, you can do so by clicking on the arrow in the left-hand margin. As a shortcut when defining other variables, you can also hit the equal sign at the end of an assignment, and before pressing enter. The equal sign will be removed from the expression, and the resultant answer bubble will then appear. Once a variable has been defined, you can use it again later in the worksheet simply by typing its name. Note that the autocomplete menu will also list the variable names to help you as you type. Remember that Swift Calcs performs calculations from the top of the worksheet downwards, so a variable must be defined in a worksheet above where it is used. In this example, if I add a y in line 2 before it is defined, Swift Calcs will not yet be aware of the value of y, which is defined on line 3. If I move this expression below where y is defined, Swift Calcs knows its value and can compute the solution. Once a variable has been defined, you can then redefine it later. This redefinition will simply overwrite the value of the variable. Again, because Swift Calcs performs calculations from the top down, an expression will use the closest value of a variable that was defined above the expression. Here, y plus 5 on line 3 uses the value y equals 234, as that is the closest value of y defined above the expression. If I move y plus 5 down below line 4, it will now use the value 123, as that is now the closest value defined above the expression. We can also delete the value of a variable using the purge command. Here, I will purge y. The purge command will remove the value of y below that point in the worksheet. On line 5, y plus 5, y is no longer defined. However, if I move it above the purge command, y is defined on line 3 equal to 123. It is not yet purged until line 5. When defining a variable, you can define it as a simple number, but also as an expression of other variables. Additionally, Swift Calcs also provides a variable assignment slider to encourage exploration of a calculation based on a changing input. Find the slider in the toolbox under the Variables tab. Drag and drop the slider into your worksheet from the toolbox and then add the variable name to assign this to. By default, a slider allows values from 0 to 100 in increments of 1, but these settings can be changed by clicking on the small wrench icon that appears when hovering the mouse over the slider. We will change this slider to allow values from 1 to 30 at a step size of 2. Simply click and drag the slider, or click and type a new value to change its value. The variable will automatically be adjusted, and the worksheet will recalculate based on the new value. You can also create variables using a conditional assignment. To create a conditional assignment, use an open curly bracket after typing the assignment sign. You can also add this by using the tool in the toolbox. In a conditional assignment, you can change the value of your variable depending on a condition. Here, we will set convar to 3 if slider var is greater than 15. We can now see that if I expand the answer bubble, it's equal to 5. However, if I make slider var larger, it's 3. We can now use all of our variables together in further calculations later in the worksheet. Join us in the next lesson, where we will introduce functions and their use in Swift Calcs.